Hey y'all, real 2K Insider here. It has been a minute since I've done any type of roster content. I've got a new job and I am getting my ass kicked at said new job, working like 5 to 6 12-hour blocks right now with the holiday season. So I've not been able to put out as much, anywhere close to the amount of content that I've wanted to over the last 3 weeks or so. Maybe by January that will change. But I do want to at least try to get out at least one video per roster update the 2K releases. So we're going to be breaking down Kawhi Leonard and maybe the Los Angeles Clippers as a whole in this update. We're going off of changes that were made in the December 1st 2K roster update. It is today is December 7th, about 30 minutes until December 8th, so about a week after the update. And Kawhi Leonard was one of about like 10 players who were quote unquote big movers. He's the only one that dropped, and we define big movers as somebody who went up or down 3 or more points in rating. Kawhi Leonard was a -4 in this update, and I just wanted to focus on him because like the idea of him being a -4 based on what he's done so far is sort of a little tricky to handle, a little maybe a little suspect, especially in the way that like 2K handled some of what they did. So let's just dive in, and I'll break down more or less what I mean by that. His edit that they gave him is based on 112 minutes played this season, only 5 games worth. Kawhi Leonard has missed the vast majority of the season with injury, and 112 minutes is not a substantial sample to go off of. Uh, like, I generally don't really care what a sample says, like what a player's production is, until they hit around like 300 minutes. So for them to be dropping a player 4 points based on 5 games, like two of which he came off the bench, like the others where he had like clear minute restrictions. He's coming off a major injury. He's working himself back into form. Like that's a pretty big deal, and they're doing quite a little bit of projection here. So let's just dive in with some of the attributes that they changed. Close shot, or actually, I'm sorry, draw foul. This is a -23. It would make sense that this rating would drop. His free throw rate, again, he's coming off of a knee injury, so 3.9 free throw attempts per 36 minutes. That's down from 6.0 in the 2021 season. So, if you guys have watched any of my other content, like 2K is so fucking hit or miss on like how they handle this rating. It seems very arbitrary, even though there's statistical like backing for it. So Kawhi dropping here, I don't have a problem with, but when you go through the roster and see some of the guys that like have 80s, there's probably a bunch with 80s who have even lower free throw rates than Kawhi Leonard. So, just bear that in mind. His close shot, this is a -18, and this is a pretty substantial drop. Going from again 99 isn't the max rating that they use; it's 98 for whatever reason. So he had a max close shot. So they're basing this off of a 21 shot sample. He's 8 for 21 from the field on the year. Actually, even less of a sample than that because he played a game after the roster update. So, I'm for them to give a -18 based on what, like 15 shots of data. That's absurd to me. But at least for it to be like that substantial of a change, like I have dropped his close shot rating, but like an 80, it doesn't take much for that to look foolish. He's shooting 38% on the season, but only assisted on 13% of his shots from this range. So he's still creating a fair amount of his shots off the dribble. They are higher difficulty than the average player. They didn't touch a mid-range shot. Worth noting, he's 6 of 8 from the field, 75%. Just to show like how limited the samples are and how we can't really base a ton off of them yet. So they didn't touch him here. But the 3-point rating, that's a -5. He's 2 for 18 on threes so far. Again, extremely small sample. Currently shooting 11%. You know, not great. Obviously, they're giving him a wee bit of respect because of 18%, he should really be rated a 58 if you were just going straight off of the raw numbers. But yeah, I like only a -5 here. I think it would have made more sense to be like a -5 in the close shot rather than a -18, given like the limited samples that we're doing. Free throw rating, unbelievable. Like -8. He's 12 for 15 on the season, which is 80%. He's 89% over his last 2 seasons and 86% for his career. So, like, what the fuck are we doing here, guys? Ball handle. He's Kawhi Leonard's ball his shot creation is down. 23% usage, I believe, which is his lowest since 2015 at the present moment. His post touches are down as well. 4.8 post touches per 36 minutes compared to 6.5 in 2021. 6.5 had him. He was top 10 in the NBA in post up rate, and the only one of those players that wasn't a power forward or center. So I personally had him at like a 95 post control. He's fine with the 89, because they didn't have him appropriately rated to begin with. So it's okay that they didn't like touch him here, and he's still getting a fair amount of his offense via the post. So which is also like another reason why this 80 is kind of a little suspect, because again, he's going to be taking shots from this range. Not going to take much for that rating to go back up. But his ball handle, similar story. He was underrated here as well. Basically, 6 pick and roll possessions per 36 and 3 and 4 isolation possessions per 36, so 10 total. Back in 2021. Now in this season, and the reason why I'm using the per 36 minutes is because we're adjusting for his playing time. Obviously, he's been a part-time player thus far. 3.6 pick and roll possessions and 2.5 isolation for 5 possessions per 36 total compared to 10. So his possession rate has cut in half. He's basically, you could argue he'd be like an 83, like somewhere between an 80 and an 85. But previously he should have been like a 90. But because he wasn't, I don't actually recommend a change here. I think this rating is fine. The shot IQ, like this is such an arbitrary rating. This is a -16. Like, what are we even going off of here? Kawhi Leonard's one of the smartest players in the NBA. He's got great shot selection. The only reason that the shot selection isn't quote unquote great is because the shots aren't dropping at the present moment. So, like, whatever. I hate this attribute and how Stuffer is been utilizing that attribute in the 10 years since he's had the job, but whatever. And then pass vision. This is a -2. This is one of their attributes that they have automated at this point. It's going to be one of the ones that fluctuates from roster update to roster update as it's tied to his assist rate. So -2, only slightly worse. They didn't touch any of his other pass ratings, so whatever. Going over to defensive rebound. This is inexplicably a +13. All the other ratings have been drops so far. This one's a +13, even though his rebound rating has declined. His defensive rebound rate is a 15.9%. Last season, or rather 2021, it was 17.4%, which is what he was rated off of with the 68. They're just making up attributes. Like they do that a lot with a lot of star players. They'll overinflate them to get their overall ratings up. I don't understand really why they're doing it here, but I would personally have him. I think by rate he should be like a 65 or 66. So I don't know why they decided to boost him by 15 points. And similar story with the steal rating. This is another one of those attributes that they have automated. Like the block rating is a -1. based on like his block rate this year. But steals, his steal rate this year is only 1.0%. Last year it was 2.3%. It was already overrated by scale at an 85, and at only a 1.0 steal percentage. That's like what they consider a 37 rating. He's got 3 steals in 6 games. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? So this is another attribute that they decided to arbitrarily raise for like just reputation purposes, I guess. Even though based on like if you're gonna be dropping his close shot rating based on his current performance, like why aren't you doing it to these 2 attributes? I don't like the direction just isn't really there for this roster team. I don't really know what the fuck they're doing. We got a -1 for lateral quickness. Oh baby, way to really address his defensive ratings and his athleticism, etc. As you may notice, 97 perimeter defense still, 79 interior defense. Probably hasn't retained, in the 6 games that he's played since coming back from the injury. I don't think he's going to be the elite defensive player that he was prior, but still very good. Like you could probably argue that he's like a 90 player rather than a 97. And they usually handcuff lateral quickness to the perimeter defense rating. So wah, they gave him a -1. Wow, really great job with the overall analysis there, guys. But 87 stamina. This is a -7. Obviously, Kawhi thus far has been a part-time player, averaging career low in minutes, 23.3. 2 of those came off the bench. And kind of tied to that is his durability. He's one of the most injury-prone players in the NBA, but they have not touched any durability ratings for any player in the last like 2 or 3 years or so. He's played 6 of 25 games this season, with 57 games remaining. He played 52 in 2021, so it seems extremely unlikely that he's going to play 50 this season. Probably going to be, like, I would be shocked if he played 40 games. And he's only played 70 plus games twice in his entire career. So, like, why does he have a 79? He's like a Grant Hill, Penny Hardaway type of injury prone level of player. He's only played 65% of his career games. Why is he this high in the durability? This is the durability rate he had before blowing out his knee again. So, maybe get with the program there. They dropped his pass perception by 7, which is kind of like ridiculous when you consider that they boosted his steal rating by 5. Like I guess they're both rated 90 now, but like just to give an idea of how much his steal rating probably should be dropping. Kawhi's only recorded 1.0 deflections per 36 minutes, and to give an idea how small that is, previously in 2021. 2.7 per 36, and then in 2020, 3.9 per 36. So literally like 25% of the deflections that he got 3 years ago when he first joined the Clippers and was an all defensive level of player. So right off the bat, we can see that defensively so far he has been less active than before. And that is again also something that should factor into like his stamina rating and etc. Like you can drop his hustle rating, that I believe is still an 85. Yeah. So I personally base hustle off of like I use deflections and like loose balls recovered. That stats available on NBA.com. What I just pulled all that from. But yeah, like a 1.0 deflection rate, that's like a 60 hustle rating. So yeah, that's a really low deflection rate, and he needs to drop way more in this attribute if that were to continue. Obviously, I'm not going to say that it's going to continue because it's only been 112 minutes that he's played in this up at the time of this update. So, just keep an eye on it. Offensive consistency. This is a -13. He's got a -1.4 offensive box plus minus. That is the stat that I use for consistency, and it usually lines up pretty well with what 2K has got. So -1.4, that's about a 55 offensive consistency. He's been very erratic with his shooting so far in those 5 games. He's got the worst true shooting percentage on the team, so just a lot of his consistency. And his negative 1.4, conversely in 2021, 6.0, which is like massively breaks the scale, like easy 90, easy 98 or 99, whatever you want to consider their max. Um, so he's, like 85, they are still giving him a lot of respect here. I expect that his box plus minus will rise as he gets more minutes under his belt, but certainly that explains the minus 13 drop. They did not touch his defensive consistency or his help defense. That's fine though. And his intangibles is a minus 10 because, of course, a 2K update wouldn't be complete without them modifying the intangibles somewhat in order to get their overall rating changed what they actually wanted to do. They don't really, they're not super in depth with their ratings. As I mentioned, like 5 or 6 that could have still been changed. Kawhi did have 4 badge changes in this update, which I will go over. They were all to his shooting, his finishing, playmaking, and defense are all unchanged. Just briefly touching on some of them. I think his finishing is totally fine. Again, it's still early, but this is all basically what I would have given him in his last healthy season. The playmaking, he should have more than one playmaking badge. Like, come on, guys. Pretty good passer out of the post. You can pass playmaker. As I mentioned, he's pretty good. He was a shot creator off the dribble. Got 4 isolation possessions per 36 minutes the last time we saw him. So did a fair amount of shot creation. For him to only have bailout is a fucking joke. And then defense, I do imagine that most of these badges will probably not go away, but at least decrease one tier probably. Like, I highly doubt he's going to be Hall of Fame menace post injury. Maybe a gold, and then make these golds all become silvers. But again, we need like more than 100 minutes of Kawhi Leonard in order to make these assessments. It's still early in his sample life. But the changes that we have to badges are he lost 4 shooting badges and had 1 downgrade. Guard up went from a silver to a bronze. And then the badges that were lost were Agent 3, which is like pull-up threes off the pull-ups and step-backs, I believe. Like any shot threes off the dribble. Blinders, which is kind of like a cousin to Deadeye. Green Machine was a silver, and now he has no badge. I hugely disagree with that because they're basing that entirely off of this like 100-minute sample of production, which is just stupid. And Slippery Off Ball went from a bronze to non-existent. So yeah, I'm going to go over Kawhi Leonard as a whole in my roster, the real 2K rosters. But let's just briefly go over the rest of the Clippers team, as I'm not really super thrilled with the way that 2K has handled them. As you see, like Kawhi and Paul George are the only players over an 80 rating on this team, and they both missed time with injuries, and the team is 14-11. So this has been an issue dating back to like last season, how a lot of the role players on this team are like super underrated. The tiering doesn't really make sense. Like Amir Coffey is behind Nick Batum and Luke Kennard in their rotation, but he has the same overall rating as them. Batum's ahead of Robert Covington in the rotation. He has a lower rating. Covington's been like a DNP coach's decision a fair amount of the time. Terrence Mann has been playing pretty well. Pretty much all of the role players I have like 2 or 3 points higher in my roster. Ivica Zubac is a big one. He's basically been their third best player, third most valuable after, well, actually second most valuable, because I would say that he's been more valuable than Kawhi Leonard thus far. But he's been their most valuable player after Paul George, and they only have him at a 78 overall. The Clippers are, as mentioned, they're 14-11, which is 6th in the Western Conference. They're 28th offensively, but 5th defensively, and Zubac has been a huge part of that. He's definitely underrated as as a defensive play as a defensive anchor. He's really good in drop and pretty reasonable shot blocker and rebounder. But like if you compare the badges that he's got, they don't really exist. And then if you hopped over to like the Grizzlies with Steven Adams, you're going to see he actually grades out a lot better, even though I would argue that Zubats is like very clearly a better player than Adams at this current juncture. Certainly on probably I would say on better on both ends at this point. Uh, and I have Zubats at an 82, which is a +4 compared to what 2K has him. So if like generally my players are going to be 2 points higher because I actually redo their badges. For Zubats to be a +4 in my roster indicates that he's like definitely way underrated by 2K. Uh, but just like briefly touching on, oh, how do I do this from here? I can't. I can do it from here. God forbid you be able to sort by position in a roster layout. But I was just going over the positions that I have. I personally have Kawhi Leonard at the shooting guard position and Paul George at the small forward, and that's because Paul George in the lineups, even without Kawhi Leonard, while he's been out, he's played more power forward. So I would argue that he's like a 3/4 rather than a 2/3. And Kawhi Leonard, he's actually been subbing with Luke Kennard when healthy. Luke Kennard, and so they with what 2K does with this information, of course, if they're like, oh, we need to change Luke Kennard to small forward. No, you idiots. Like, and whereas like Terrence Mann has usually been subbing for Paul George also, and I would argue that Terrence Mann profiles more as a 3 certainly than Luke fucking Kennard. So I would invert. I would swap Leonard and George, and then I would swap Mann and Kennard positionally. Um, and also right now, Norm the team is finally healthy, all with the exception of Norm Powell. So in the last game that Kawhi did play, Kennard came in off the bench because Powell was hurt. So maybe my tune will change once they have a fully healthy perimeter, but that remains to be seen. The positions in general just are a little wonky with this team. Like it is a little bit positionless, kind of eye of your beholder thing. I also have Brandon Boston as a shooting guard rather than a small forward based on how he's employed. Either way, I consider him like the fourth string at either position. He's actually gotten more time in the G League, I believe, than he has on the regular team this season. And the other major change would be Robert Covington. I actually have as a center rather than a power forward. With the health of Morris and Batum and their failure to like even bring in a backup center, like the two guys that they have at center are on two-way contracts. Covington's essentially been playing as like a small ball 5 for them when he does play. We've also seen a little bit of Nick Batum as a small ball 5, but we've seen. I would argue that Batum has seen more minutes at the 4 than Covington has this season, which is kind of my rationale for why I have Cove at the 5. But either way, I would like to see them to pick up an actual like even someone like a Luke Cornett or something. I think would have helped. Just an actual like legit if they wanted a stretch 5. There are guys out there. But anywho, let's jump into my roster real quick, which you can find here. It is the real 2K rosters on the PS5. Dash YouTube is the file of that I have been using. And we'll hop in over to Kawhi Leonard. And you can see I've got him at the same overall rating, but the path traveled is completely different. One, you can see his archetype, two-way, three-level shot creator rather than point forward. I think that is because I decreased his pass vision below a 70. Whereas they have him right on the threshold. I believe they have him at a 70, whereas I have him at a 69. Let's see if that changes it. That turns him into a two-way play shot's kind of a similar thing. I think that's because might have to do with one of these. It might be because I have like his close shot at an 86 still rather than an 80, or the 3-point shot. They have that at 78. I still have it at 80. It's a number of things. I don't really concern myself a ton with the 2K's archetypes, but you'll notice that I have 41 badges on him still. So even though we came to the same overall rating, I really did. I went through and I redid the badges for the entire Clipper team, which is kind of the draws to my roster. Is that 2K doesn't reevaluate badges. Like I have 11 badges on Zubats. And you can see I boosted some of the quality of those. It looks a little more like the Steven Adams that we looked at before. But yeah, jumping into Kawhi, some of the badges that I changed, boosted his. I think I gave him Dream Shake and Post Spin Technician or at least boosted their quality. Because again, one of the better post players in the NBA the last time he was healthy, and still getting a fair amount of post touches this season. I reduced his green machine to bronze rather than just removing it outright. As we are giving him respect for being a superstar caliber player until he gets more time under his belt and shows that he's not at that level. I think Kawhi would make he's a smart player, and even if he's only going to be like a third star moving forward, or like a role, so like a super role player as he was with the Spurs back when they had Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Tim Duncan, etc. Like if he's not that guy, I think you still want him to have a bronze in a lot of these badges. And anything that got added to him, like volume shooter, I think should be a bronze until he regains his usage from past seasons. I still have Agent 3, as he hasn't done any shot creation off the dribble with his threes, but as of yet. But I don't think that's that's something that's still in his bag. Still have Gold Midi Magician, and then I gave him a couple playmaking badges as mentioned. Gets a lot of touches in isolation still. So Clamp Breaker made sense, and boosted his passing just a tick. Like I think bronzes are totally fine. He's a solid playmaker, just not spectacular. And then as mentioned, I removed Menace from him. Probably the badges that I would be reducing. So based on hit that deflection rate that I referenced earlier, you can make an argument for dropping like Workhorse, Interceptor certainly if that doesn't come back, probably Gold Glove. Like I could see a world where he becomes like Silver Glove and then Bronze Interceptor, and the rest of these you kind of just got to see some tape of him playing on the ball. But and going over the rest as mentioned. So the big thing is I have Paul George rated above Kawhi Leonard, so or not above, but at least equal. Whereas 2K, even though they dropped Kawhi Leonard, they still have Paul George at an 89 overall, and I think moving forward, Paul George is probably the safer bet to be the top dog on this team. So I would say that George is probably. I don't know if he's trending upward. I could say that Kawhi Leonard's probably trending downward, and if his current level of play maintained, he'd probably end up in like the 85 to 87 range is my guess, which is still like an all-star caliber player. Like you probably in like the Andrew Wiggins tier of small forwards. I still think he's a better small forward than Andrew Wiggins, but just in terms of like that total effectiveness. And then John Wall's been really solid off the bench for them. He's been better than Reggie Jackson, but you just can't fit like. I think John Wall's like the perfect guy to lead a second unit, comparable to like a Derrick Rose and or even like a Russell Westbrook currently with the Lakers. Like he's not good enough against first units, but he should be able to dominate second units. And I think we're going to see a lot more point guards end up in that type of role. Reggie Jackson's been weird. Like he's just super erratic. But again, like the team is fifth defensively, and a lot of that isn't really reflected in 2K's ratings. A lot of these guys they have bad on both ends of the ball, and Reggie Jackson is probably one of those guys that you could argue should be a little higher on the defensive end. Like, Terrence Mann especially, I think 2K has shitty defensive ratings on. But, again, like, the team is fifth defensively, and a lot of that isn't really reflected in 2K's ratings. A lot of these guys, they have bad on both ends of the ball, and Reggie Jackson is probably one of those guys that you could argue should be a little higher on the defensive end. Like, Terrence Mann especially, I think 2K has shitty defensive ratings on. Um, let's see anything otherwise notable. Luke Kennard, it has had a ridiculous shooting percentage this year. I think 49% from three, but isn't doing a ton from anywhere else. But you see, I've got him with a 92 3-point rating and 10 badges. I believe 2K's got him at like 1 badge or something like that. Or they have him at 7 badges actually, but I don't think one of them is like his badges are. Like I've got him at gold catch and shoot, gold slippery. Like he has higher quality badges, and I think some of these like might be bronzes. Like he's an elite catch and shoot, like JJ Redick type of shooter. Marcus Morris has been solid. He's been like their top offensive option with when Kawhi and George are sidelined, and pretty good 3-point shooter as well. Anything else noteworthy, or nah? Let's just close it out. So, if you want, I have all of these ratings and badges in a spreadsheet that I make available for $20 this season. If you would like to gain access to said spreadsheet, DM me on Twitter at Real2KInsider, and I'll set you up. Otherwise, thanks for watching, guys. Keep an eye out for future roster-related content. Hopefully 2K can at least start to do a little better of a job. Again, I've got Kawhi Leonard at the same overall rating, but the path traveled to get there is just completely different. Just retouching on some of these ratings, I did decrease his pass perception even further to an 85. And oh yeah, I guess that's worth noting. I have Kawhi Leonard maxed out with the 99 intangibles, and they have him at a 75. So let's actually see where I would have him rated. All right, just at a 90. I guess he's very close to being an 89. Yeah, 3 points off of being an 89 if we shared the same intangible rate. So I guess I've been harder on him, even though I've actually paid him a little bit more respect in terms of how his badge is being treated. But anywho, thanks again. Yeah, way to knock out my outro by giving an extra 2 minutes of content or whatever. Thanks guys for watching, and be on the lookout for the next one. Peace.